Good evening, and I'd like to call to order the January 2019 regular meeting of the New Bern Historic Preservation Commission. Morgan, would you like to call the roll?
Yes. David Griffith.
Here.
Joe Anderson. Ruth Cox. Here. James Woods.
Here.
Karen McNair. Here. George Brake. Jim Bisbee. Joe Klotz.
Here.
And Christian Evans. We do, by the skin of our teeth, have a quorum.
Very well, thank you.
Yes.
I understand there are no minutes for us to review this evening.
Not this evening. We're going to get caught up on those. This is Jennifer. She is our minute taker from here on out. She is going to be with us helping do minutes and keeping us on track.
Welcome.
Excellent, thank you. All right, with no minutes to review and approve, I'll go ahead and give our introduction to the start of our regular meeting, which entails hearings. HPC is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen. It's responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, downtown and Riverside, and is based on U.S. Department of Interior standards, state statutes, city ordinances, and New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for a Certificate of Appropriateness, or COA, and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds a quasi-judicial hearing on an application for a COA. Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who receive notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. The Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes or dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to specific historic guidelines. Likewise, Commissioners shall refrain from stating personal opinion, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during the hearing. The Commission's decision on an application is based solely on testimony and evidence presented at a hearing that directly relates to the historic guidelines. Morgan, would you like to swear in anyone who will be presenting tonight?
Yes. So if you're going to be presenting only for the public hearing, which is only Sarah, you know the drill. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give this evening will be true to the best of your knowledge? Thank you.
Thank you. Summary of the process for COA applications. The HPC administrator will provide an overview of the application, and the applicant may present it to the Commission. Proponents and opponents who receive notice of the hearing can present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and by proponents and opponents who receive notice. Others who can justify they have relevant information and will be directly affected also can present evidence. The HPC administrator then presents the staff's findings and recommendations to the Commission. The applicant has an opportunity to make final comments. Commissioners then discuss the evidence, may ask for clarification from the applicant or presenters. Eventually, the chairman will call for a motion to approve or deny the application with stated findings of fact. The motion is discussed by the Commission and voted on. Chairman calls for a vote on the motion. COA can be approved with conditions, or denied. And with that, we can begin our hearings.
All right. First up, this is old business. We have 702 East Front Street. This is Sarah's project. This is a request to include a foundation increase and installation of a screen porch with a roof in the tertiary ABC. And as you'll remember at the last meeting, we had to continue this because we were waiting for information from the City Historic Preservation Office. We don't have guidelines yet on elevations. They provided their recommendations, which were attached in the staff recommendations. And I'm just going to turn it over to Sarah and let her introduce the project.
Good evening. This project is a flooded house on East Front Street, and the whole back porch of it got just completely lifted off. Lots of porch damage, 2 feet of water inside, and so the owner very much wants to raise the house, and we asked the Historic Preservation Office to come down and take a look at it, and Morgan has met with them
I did. They have it in your staff recommendations.
So, a very carefully worded letter that I believe says that what we're doing is okay. That it's your wording, not incongruous. And so, what we're proposing is, so just photos of what's there now, the house pre-hurricane. It does have a brick weave foundation that's 2 feet off grade right now. And just looking at other foundations in the area with finished floor heights along East Front Street. And then this is the house next door that was raised some years ago. And so this is the existing plan, and what we're proposing to do is take that back porch that was just an open back porch and make it into a screened-in porch and raising that foundation. So I think this is the old, this says 5 feet, but what we submitted has 6 feet on it. Is that, I just want to make sure we're. Okay. Okay.
You got it, Sarah?
You can use it. No, I think, is that my contact or is that? That's good. I just wasn't sure if that was in the. Okay. So the proposed foundation is 4 feet above where it is now. It's at 2 feet above grade, and what the owner would like to do is get it to 6 feet above grade, which is similar to the Dean Knight's old house next door. This one right here, we went and measured it, and it looks like the finished floor is about 5.5 feet above grade. The new house down at the end of the street is at 7 feet. This one right here is roughly about 5, 6 above grade. It's got a little slope up to it. So we believe that it's in keeping with what's in the neighborhood. And what we're proposing was to redo the brick weave in that area. And the owner would plant up next to the sidewalk so that it's not so impactful right there. The screen-in porch is pretty standard, copying the details of what is surrounding, using the same materials, painted wood, a hand-turned metal roof, screening, decking, and the pickets and railings to match what is existing already on site. With stairs out to the backyard, and then the side view of the neighbor farther to the north on East Front Street. The stairs that come out to the sidewalk fall short of the sidewalk, so there's enough room. We've got enough room to raise the house and still get those stairs in there comfortably. So that is, I think that's pretty much it. If there are any questions.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any conflicts of interest or any concerns over the completeness of the application?
No.
No.
All right, very well. Is there anyone who received notice that would like to speak either for or against the application? Okay, very well. Um, Are there any more comments you'd like to make, Sarah? Okay. Morgan, can you provide our staff findings and recommendations?
Certainly, staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. Foundations 411, 412, 413, and 414. Additions 331, 332, and 333. Staff will defer to the State Historic Preservation Office and the Department of Interior for guidance relating to elevations, and you have that letter in your packet. And statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: the proposed project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary areas of visual concern. The proposed project is not incongruous with the guidelines. Staff recommends the Commission approve the application for major exterior alterations at this time, citing the aforementioned guidelines with two conditions: that the brick infill between the piers be recessed per State Historic Preservation Office guidance, that's noted in the letter, and vegetation be planted around the foundation to minimize visual impact, which is also noted in the guidance from the State Historic Preservation Office.
Thank you. I will admit that I don't have John Wood's letter printed here. Can you hit the highlights of that in terms of what his...
Certainly can. The highlights: it is their understanding that the property of 702 East Front is proposing to elevate their property 5 feet above existing grade, and doing so will satisfy the requirements of the preliminary flood insurance rate map, also known as a firm map. That will suffice for the elevation, the base flood elevation of 9 feet, as well as the city's required freeboard height of 2 feet. The proposed design appears to replicate the property's historic brick pier foundation with brick lattice infill between the piers. We recommend that the new masonry piers should be constructed so they are flush with the exterior face of the sill, and the brick lattice infill should be recessed from the exterior face of the pier between 1 1/2 to 2 inches to meet the Secretary of Interior standards. It's noted that visual impacts due to the increased height of the property may be mitigated by the use of fill, vegetative plantings, and/or other landscape features. As foundation flood vents do not appear in the architectural drawings, we assume the architect has confirmed flood vents visible from the exterior are not required, in which they are not. A few more small highlights. That sums it up. It is mentioned that New Bern's current design guidelines do not specifically address elevations, that they are expecting the National Park Service to develop a brief on such guidance for elevations by the end of 2019.
Okay, thank you. Now, as you mentioned that you've got 6 feet on the application, in his letter he was still referencing 5. Is that because the change was made subsequent to his review?
It could have been that an old copy was sent to them, but when I spoke with Amber, I informed her that what the base flood elevation is of East Front Street as it currently is about 8. When it goes to the new maps, it's going to go to approximately 9, and then New Bern has a 2-foot freeboard on top of that, so 9, 10, 11. And she's cognizant of that fact. It might just be a typo.
Okay.
Because I spoke with her about it and sent her these plans, and I did not, I got that letter last night, and I did not realize that it has the 5 feet in there. I mean, the problem with measuring anything from grade is that we really need to measure it from 0. What the base flood elevation of the house as it exists is at 8.5 above 0. And so, adding these extra, feet to it, the owner wants to be at 12.5. So that, you've got enough for the floor framing, HVAC, whatever is underneath there. I mean, that puts the house, the finished floor at, to us, what would be reasonable if everything goes to 11. So that's 1.5 feet above flood, that gives us enough for that framing and HVAC and whatever underneath there.
Okay. In any case, what's illustrated in front of us does illustrate the 6 foot or total of 4 foot total
4 foot above
elevation.
Where we are now.
Okay. Well, I think regardless of whether or not it's a typo, we're going to use our own judgment on, what we see in the application anyways, and that can be part of our discussion, but for myself, I don't see that discrepancy as an issue as long as, because our concern is eventually what it's going to look like, not the actual numbers.
Exactly. And it is noted in the document, advice provided by the Historic Preservation Office is non-binding and should not be considered an official ruling by our office or determination regarding how the commission should decide a COA case.
Okay, very well. And certainly the brick lattice is not just an okay way in terms of our own guidelines to provide infill between brick piers, but it also qualifies as flood vents if you so choose to do the calculations. So we appreciate that proposal. It's pretty easy for us to say okay to. As far as the back porch, just so I understand and we all understand, is it essentially being rebuilt the way it was with screening added, or is the porch being rebuilt a little bit differently?
It's the same rough dimensions as what was there, just with columns and a roof and being elevated. So it had a railing around it, it had stairs down in the backyard. I don't have pre-flood photos. I probably should, you could probably get them off Google. I didn't,
You can do it.
I mean, I've got this photo of what it looks like now. Oh, you can? Yeah. So it's, the whole thing just got shifted off its foundation. So it's the rough dimensions of what was there, and the neighbor next door's got a screened-in back porch that's a similar size as what we want to do.
Okay, so it was a deck with a railing that didn't actually have columns and a roof.
No.
Okay. Well, in any case, we're to evaluate that as an addition to historic structure, and
Yeah.
so in terms of any of our questions or deliberations, it's just a matter of whether or not it's appropriate in its configuration, materials, and all the rest.
Yes.
Does anyone have any
Yes,
questions
I
for
have a
that?
question. You talked about that the steps were going down to the sidewalk. Are you talking about the sidewalk that's beside the house?
No, the sidewalk on East Front Street.
two different sets of steps?
The front steps are gonna
The
go
front
down?
steps, yeah.
And that's only an issue because the house is moving up 4 feet, and therefore the steps are going to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're right now talking about the back, right?
Well,
The screen-in porch is on the rear of the property. Yes.
Right, and didn't you say that that was going down to the sidewalk?
No, the front steps are going down the sidewalk. The rear steps are just going out into the yard.
Okay. Second question. So in this application, you don't have anything about plantings around this house yet. So you're gonna have to come back with that?
Sure, absolutely.
I can do that as my work.
And there were plantings around the
Right.
base of it. Morgan just pulled up Google Maps, and that's looking towards the rear of the property. And it, it had quite a few, plantings along
Right.
here.
Right.
Some little shrubs there, but he's gonna have to develop a whole different plan.
Plan,
And it's-
okay.
And is definitely, will bring that back.
You'll bring that back, okay, all right. And the front porch, and I believe I understand this from what you've given us, that the roof over the front porch and the roof over the back porch are gonna be of the same materials?
Well, the front porch is a hand turn, it's just a different metal. The back will just be a galvanized hand seamed metal, but not a standing seam.
Okay, because you've got hand-turned metal roof, but that's not what it's gonna be?
Yes, it's just not, yes, it's a hand seam
Is that what the front porch is?
The front porch is a hand-turned metal, yes, not a standing seam, but it's the old turned metal. It's just that they don't make that metal anymore, so you've got to use galvanized.
So essentially, it's
Yeah.
it's seamed together like a standing seam, but it's turned flat down
They
as a
just
finish.
Yeah, they turn it over and crimp it down flat. Yeah.
But it reflects, meaning similarly to what's on the front.
Yeah, it doesn't
Correct.
have the big, tall
Right.
standing seam on it, but, yeah, no.
Any other questions, comments?
No.
Very well. Would anyone care to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. I move that we find, is this an addendum or the original COA?
This is the original COA.
I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 702 East Front Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District Guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Foundations 411, 412, 413, 414. Additions 331, 332, 333. The findings of fact. The proposed project is within the primary, secondary, and tertiary areas of visual concern. The proposed project is not incongruous with guidelines. And as a condition, we would like to have you add the letter from the State Historic Preservation Office and the Department of Interior for the guidance of the elevations, as well as note that brick piers for the foundations should match historically, and that vegetation planting to be added, and that to be approved by Morgan as a minor work.
Very well. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
I would ask that perhaps a friendly amendment of adding guideline 4.5 roofs be added to the applicable
For the
guidelines.
addition?
Yeah, because there's a roof on the porch, so.
Okay.
Good point. Thank you.
All right. That is accepted by the motion maker.
Yes.
Second there, Ruth.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the COA is approved. Would anyone care to make a motion to issue the COA?
So done?
Second?
May I have that motion and a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the COA is issued.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving over to 618 East Front Street. This is a request to include the installation of a screen porch, rear deck, and stairs in the tertiary ABC, and this is another project of Sarah's. I'm going to turn it over to her. Do you want to use the scanner, the overhead, Sarah, or do you want to use the electronic copy?
I can use this one.
Okay.
See how it goes. So, this project is 616 East Front Street, and this photo,
618.
618.
it's actually got two addresses, 616, 618. Yes, I believe the correct one is 618, and that's on the application. This house, this is pre-hurricane right here. Beautiful little house, was apartments. The owner is bringing it back into more of a single-family house. Has a beautiful side porch that the upstairs has been covered in some time ago. essentially, it would look like 3 French doors along there, with another one here, so that they can get that full amount of light in here, and also along that area there. The materials used are all matching the house, so we're using painted wood, the concrete parged, and the trellis material with wood decking. It's all pretty simple, and it's all on the rear, so that really you would have to get in that backyard to really see what's going on back there. And I think that's about it.
All right, very well. Commissioners, are there any conflicts of interest or concerns over the application's completeness?
No.
No.
Very well. Is there anyone who has received notice that would like to speak either for or against the application? Very well. Morgan, would you like to provide staff findings and recommendations?
Yes. Before I do that, can I ask 2 questions real quick? Hey, Sarah, just a quick note. In the actual application, the address needs to be changed. It still says 702 East Front Street, so can we change that?
It says that on there.
Yeah. It's just a typo.
You want to send it to me? No.
It's okay. We can make that change.
Can I do it right now?
Other question was, this is not relating to the COA, it's relating to this house. That window in the rear, did you speak to the owner about the window in the rear that was installed?
Yes, they are definitely going to change that.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Okay. That being said, staff submits the following historic district guidelines, thank you, ma'am, as appropriate to this application. Foundations 411, 412, 413, 414. Additions 331, 332, 333. Walls, trim, and ornamentation 421. Windows, doors, and openings 431, 432, 433. Entrances 441, 442. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application in staff's judgment are: the proposed project is located within the located within the tertiary area of visual concern. The proposed project is not incongruous with the guidelines. Staff recommends the commission approve the application for major exterior alterations at this time, citing the aforementioned guidelines.
Thank you. Any final comments, Sarah? All right, commissioners, questions, comments, discussion?
Sarah, you mentioned that the decking is going to be wooden, but you didn't specify the lattice.
In below here in the
Right.
foundation area.
Wood?
Wood lattice, yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And the roof over the enclosed?
It's a membrane roof.
Do we need to add that to the COA?
Is it not described in the application as such?
I got it down here in the materials, not in the description up here.
Okay, well, I believe as long as we understand what it is and where it's going, and it does appear in the application, we can consider that covered.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Sarah, did you say that one door was, you mentioned it in the COA, but you're not gonna do anything about it?
Yeah, that's,
The door that's gonna be in the bathroom?
yeah, right up here on the front. So, they're gonna leave it in place so that from the exterior.
It looks like a door,
It just
but,
looks like the door, and
Okay.
they'll just wall over it on the inside.
Anything further? If not, would anyone care to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. I move that we find the application for 618 East Front Street, certificate of appropriateness for 618 East Front Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District Guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. The applicable guidelines are the foundations 411, 412, 413, 414, additions 331, 332, 333, walls, trim, and ornamentation 421, windows, doors, and openings 431, 432, 433, entrances 441, 442, roof 4.5, and the statements of reason based on the information. The proposed and findings of fact, the proposed project is within the tertiary areas of visual concern, and the proposed project is not incongruous with guidelines.
Very well, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. COA is approved. Would anyone care to make a motion to issue the COA?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
We have that motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, your COA is issued.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Morgan, next on our agenda are administrative updates and minor works.
Yes, just really quickly, we have 1514 National Avenue, that was a tree removal, 514 East Front Street, installation of an HVAC unit, 309 Johnson Street, tree removal, 202 Johnson Street, tree removal, 219 Middle Street, signage installation, a housekeeping measure, HPC upcoming vacancies. Sadly, I will need to have 2 replacements, and we will have to have vice chair voting at our next meeting. We could do that until February, maybe to give the others some more time to nominate, or we could have it at the special call hearing on the 31st. That would be up to you.
Okay. Well, either way, we can conduct it at the regular meeting in February.
Sounds good.
But do we know when Joe Anderson will no longer be?
I am presuming it was effective immediately that day, Tuesday, and since he's not present this evening, I'm assuming it was effective immediately.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next item is for general public comments. Is there anyone that would like to come forth and make comments? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
I will. My name is John Falk. My wife and I, Margaret, live at 206 Johnson Street. I feel a little intimidated being here. Whenever I come here, I feel like a defendant in a courtroom.
It's only quasi-judicial.
Pardon me?
It's only quasi-judicial.
Thank you. I have a complaint to make about the removal of a tree in a tertiary area. That is the one not readily seen by the public, in case someone doesn't know that here. It was located on the property line between us and 202 Johnson, which properties abut. This complaint is against the way this removal was handled, the procedures followed in allowing removal of the tree. Not the family next door and not the HPC board, although this incident may hopefully engender better procedures. If I can operate the projector here, I have a couple of photographs which I'll need in a moment.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
In a moment, I'll have some suggestions for how to improve procedures, but first of all, let me submit a narrative. And we shared a magnolia, which was probably in midlife, given how long magnolias live, and given its trunk diameter, which with our neighbors at 202 Johnson. Magnolias are symbols of the Old South, along with mint juleps, I might say, and are rather long-lived and not especially subject to blowing over, as are, say, hackberries and water oaks, for those of you who have been here for a few years. I say this from personal experience in New Bern, since we've been here since 1971. The tree in question did not suffer significant damage in Florence. You can see in the photo on the left the canopy of the tree over a rear deck, which we considered a tree house for a long time, which was the back of our property. Little did I know after Florence that our neighbor had gone to the HPC and claimed that the tree was entirely hers. I have yet to see a survey demonstrating this. On the contrary, a survey done by us several years ago by a licensed surveyor and paid for us by us showed about 20 to 30% of the tree's diameter was on our property. I don't know if you can read much on that photograph, which was taken hastily while the tree was being taken down, but the circled section is the trunk of the tree, which actually comes through the fence and is on our property. What's wrong with the photo? Well, it clearly shows the base of the tree circled on our property. What it doesn't show, the fact that the fence through which it seems to be growing is ours. In other words, the property line is not on the side of the fence you see, but the other side, a good 5 inches toward the neighbors. And incidentally, I built the fence, and when I did, I set the fence back from the property line a good 3 inches as a courtesy to neighbors, given the vagaries of old surveys. If you've ever tried to survey a house downtown, you'll know what I mean. What does this mean? That a sizable portion of the tree diameter belonged to us. The other photo is the ruination of Margaret's treehouse in progress. You might notice the workmen whom I've circled also. I realize my appearance here will not bring this tree back. I am in hopes that the manner in which this was handled by the city can be improved. May I make a few suggestions, modest suggestions?
Please.
For one, a claim by one owner that a tree is on his or her property entirely, when the tree less than obviously stood on the property line, should be verified. It was not in this case. For two, after verification that the tree was jointly owned, the joint owner, that would be us in this case, should have been notified that a request for removal had been submitted. We were not notified. For three, the results of any inspection by the city as to the damage of the tree, the health of the tree, etc., should have been submitted to the joint owners, us, and time allotted for appeal. In this case, the tree was gone within days of the in-house permit. I might add, a spy agency would be proud of the clandestine skullduggery involved here. Fourth, in the case of an appeal, I suggest binding arbitration by the HPC board. You all, which is where this request should have gone initially if the notice had been made that the tree shared joint ownership. This was not done. In the past, our relations with previous owners at 202 Johnson Street were cordial. They only pruned the trees needed, leaving the leafy canopy on our side intact to shade the elevated deck, which you see in the photograph. A request that to that effect was denied by the new owners. If I may be permitted a paraphrase of Chicken Little, the sky isn't falling, the sky isn't falling. The trees are falling, the trees are falling. One justification I heard for removal was that the tree posed a threat to our houses, joint houses, by lightning strike. If something so remote as possible, many houses in downtown Newark are in danger. So, regrettably, let wholesale tree cutting begin. When Margaret relates the lightning strike theory to other neighbors, she receives giggles. I wish this were a laughing matter. The way this tree was removed was far from humorous. I feel violated, abused, somewhat as if a burglar had entered our house. A favorite guide through adult behavior for me has been Judith Martin, also known as Miss Manners. One of Martin's dictums is, never return rudeness with rudeness. I hope I haven't done that. Thank you for the chance to speak. This is all I have to say.
Appreciate your comments, sir. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very briefly, my name is Chris Wavers. I'm a resident here in actually Trent Woods, but I'm here with my classmate Michelle Kiefer, and we're both part of Leadership Creighton this year. So you all probably didn't know until just now that we were here, but thanks for having us.
All right.
Chris,
You're
what's your
welcome.
address, dear?
It is 501 Black Ledge Circle.
Thank you. Trent Woods,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, very well. Morgan, with no other business, I believe we can adjourn the public meeting. And if you're here for the special design review, don't despair. We have to adjourn this public meeting in order to go into our regular design review mode. So with that said, would anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
That's very enthusiastic. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very well. Our public meeting is now adjourned.